my first thought when I sat down last night to figure out what exactly I was going to say was if she were here, if Nana were here today. I'm going to call her Nana, by the way, because I've called her that my whole life, and I'm not going to start calling her Dixie today. So she's Nana from here on out. Roy is Papa from here on out, because again, after 36 years, I'm not going to change to Roy. So Nana and Papa, that's what we're going with from here on out. I thought, what would Nana say if she were here right now to celebrate her life with everyone? And I think we all know what she would say is that there are some really great deals on charms right now. And there is but one place for your Christmas shopping needs. And there's one true way to celebrate her life, and that's with a charm from Dixie's. She was a salesperson. So I have a few stories. Probably shouldn't tell them. Gonna tell them. One of my first memories actually is I thought about this and it made me surprised that we're actually here today in 2018, because one of my first memories is she was born in 1937, so I was able to figure out I was 5 years old. And we were at Nana and Papa's house. There was a party of some sort. I figured out it was Nana's birthday. I asked her how old she was turning. And she told me that she was turning 50. And I thought to myself, she only has a few years left. She doesn't have long. We better celebrate this birthday. This might be like the last one. But she made it. She barely aged, in fact, until just a few years ago. So every summer, Nana and Papa would pick us up, put us in the Suburban, and me and my brother Jason, we'd go on a trip somewhere. This may have only happened 1 year. In my mind, it happened every summer. And in the summer, we're taking this trip. It's probably to Colorado. I remember that one. It was a long drive. We're in the car for a long, long time. And on the way into town, and by the way, this was the one that the family most vehemently said, don't tell this story. On the way into town, we're getting close to the hotel, and I remember Nana saying, boy, when we get to the hotel, I need to sit on the toilet for a little bit. And I asked her, I said, do you need to go like really bad? And she goes, no, I just want to relax for a little bit. And I think that tells you the kind of visionary she was. All right? I didn't get it then, but I have 2 kids now, and I get it now. She knew what she was doing. Absolutely. Okay? A few years later, I was a teenager, and this really speaks to how sincere she was at all times. Listen, she had a really sneaky sense of humor, okay? She was hilarious. And if you really knew her, you knew how funny she was, but sometimes you might not have seen that because she was so very sincere in every single thing that she said. I was a teenager, and I had to go to Huntsville for some reason, some class. And I was a little bit worried about how I was going to spend my time when I was in Huntsville for a couple of days. And I'm at Dixie's one day, and Papa's there, Nana's there, Glenn is there, my mom is there. And I'm talking about what I'm going to do when I'm not in my class in Huntsville. And with all sincerity, every bit of sincerity in the world, she looks at me and she says, I think there's an execution. She really thought that'd be fun. This was a woman who wouldn't hurt a fly. It wouldn't hurt anybody, but she really she wanted to help me fill my time, and she thought that might be a good way to do it. Just wanted to help. You know? Huntsville, this isn't in my notes, but I think that held a special place in her heart because I believe Dixie sold quite a bit of jewelry to the Huntsville State Penitentiary, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe that's why she really thought that. And I remember one other thing that I remember lots of things, but one other thing I want to tell you, and again, her humility really came through too, because I was at their house one day over on Plaza Street flipping through an old yearbook that Nana had, and I'm flipping through, and I don't think I even knew her maiden name, so I didn't know how to find her. And I'm in the part with all the awards of, most likely to be successful and things like that. And I just asked her, I said, did you win any of those awards? And she real kind of sheepishly looked down and she goes, most beautiful. Seagullville High got it right. I want to say that beyond my memories, she lived a life that would put the adventures of Indiana Jones to shame. She worked the state fair circuit at age 6. She adopted a set of twins on the black market at the age of 12 and promptly gave them back. Secretly fed Nazis through a chain-link fence at Fair Park. I don't know if it was a secret, but she did it. And the most impressive, of course, she built a family. That's why we're all here, because really you're all a part of that. She also built, with really almost no education beyond high school, and certainly no great working capital, probably the longest running business in the history of Arlington. I want to go back and hit some of those bullet points that I just hit. When she was 6 years old, she lived in Fair Park. She appeared to have a lot of time unsupervised. She had a job during the state fair where she was a salesperson at age 6. She would put a goldfish in a jar in water around her neck, and she would walk around the state fair. Her job was to tell people where they could go buy the goldfish. 6 years old. She was a salesperson. Adopted twins on the black market. I might have embellished with the black market thing. But this was one of my favorite stories of her. When she was somewhere around 12, maybe a little younger, there was a woman down the street who had a set of twins. The woman was not married, which of course in the 1940s was not okay. She used to go over to the woman's house and play with these infants. And one day the woman said, I don't know if I can take care of them. And Nana said, what are you going to do? And the woman said, do you want them? And she said, yes, I do. And she took them. She took these twins to her house, and she showed her mother, and if you knew Mabel, you know how that went. Not good. Not good. Mabel said, no, you can't keep these twins. And so I don't know, frankly, we've lost track of the twins. I don't know where they went. I don't know where they are now. I'd love to find them. If they're here today, now's a good time to come forward. All right. Secretly fed Nazis through a POW camp at Fair Park. This is probably the most sensational of them all. Because when I heard this, I thought, this is a woman telling me this story who has dementia. There's no way this is correct. And I fact-checked it, and it's correct. Again, lived in Fair Park during World War II. We housed POWs at Fair Park. I didn't know this. We did this. She would walk over there with food because she just loved everyone, even the Nazis. She walked over there with food and through the chain link fence would give the Nazi POWs food because it was cold and they looked hungry and she just wanted to help. And she did that. We're conflicted. She was nice to Nazis, but really, she just wanted to be really nice and really, that's who she was, right? Would give anybody anything she needed. I never worked at Dixie's. I applied many times. But if I would have gone to her and said, Nana, I need a job bad, and I need to make $50,000 a year, she would have done it. She would have done it. Because she would do anything to help anybody in this room, without question. She met Papa when she was young. She married him when they got back from Korea. And she made a decision that I think to me molds my vision of what Nana and Papa were more than anything else. There's a quick story about Papa. Went to work at the GM plant. Didn't love it in the beginning. I'm going to assume factory conditions in the 1950s were not fun. Wanted to quit, wanted to open up his own garage. Nana was not on board with this idea, didn't like it. He found a garage, he was going to rent it. He was ready to do it with his brother. She told him, I don't really like this, but if you got to do it, do it. He went into GM that day, he was ready to quit. Was waiting for the HR person, lost his nerve. Decided, no, I'm not going to quit. I'm going to stay here. Went home that night, told Nana, sell the house in Dallas, we're going to move to Arlington, I'm staying at GM. Because of that, they were able to retire in 1984, and my vision of Nana and Papa is getting in the Suburban with a trailer behind them and driving all over the country to see all the things that they'd always wanted to see. And that was because he stayed there, because she wanted him to, had the nice pension, and they were able to live a retirement in their early 50s, which nobody gets to do. And they were very lucky to be able to do so, and we were all very lucky that they were able to do so, because we have those stories. When they were married, and they were very young, she had a job at a place called Temkin. This is the story she told me. She earned a paycheck of $46 a paycheck. She would give $5 to the church. That left her with $41. She then would give $40 to her revolving credit account at the department store, leaving her with a net paycheck of $1. She told that story, honestly, she seemed a little proud of it. I don't blame her. One of my favorite stories from my mom and from Glenn is that her favorite breakfast to make in the morning was Jack in the Box. I don't get up and make my kids breakfast, and now I know why. She would get up, load them in the car, they'd go to Jack in the Box, she'd drop them off at school, and she would tell them specific instructions. If anyone asks you what you had for breakfast, you tell them the usual. That takes courage. So, I didn't come up with a good ending to all this, I'll be honest with you. I think what I counted on is other people coming up to tell their stories, because there's endless amounts of them. But here's what I know to be the case is the worst thing you could ever say about her was that she just loved absolutely everybody, right? Me and my brother used to joke, if she had to fire someone at Dixie, she'd never do it, because she would go up to him and she would say, this isn't working, you get a raise. I don't know what interests she had, honestly. I never heard her talk about sports. I never heard her talk much about music or any of that stuff. She just really, genuinely cared about and loved me and Roy and Jason and Mom and Dad and everyone here. She didn't really differentiate between family and not family. She just absolutely loved every single person who's here today, and that's why this room is so full, and there's hardly room for all the people who wanted to come say goodbye to her. So that's all I had. I hope other people come up and tell some stories as well, maybe better ones than I had, and that's it. Thank you all for coming.